Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another speed build for the Disney Save. Today we are moving on to a new movie for the Disney Save. We are doing a new Pixar film and it is none other than The Good Dinosaur, which a lot of you had guessed in the comment section of my last speed build video. We are not going to be focusing too much on The Good Dinosaur. There's only going to be this one build today and it is a residential, so that of course means that there will be some creative sims to go along with this. Particularly two creative sims. We have the main family that lives here, Arlo and his 4 other family members. And then we also have Spot, who is a main character in the film. He's actually going to be living as a part of this household just for ease of access to the character. But if you don't like that, because technically he does not live with this family at any point in the movie, you can break it up because I'm planning on doing a townie household of the family that Spot ends up with at the end. So that's going to make 3 videos total. Really quick little film and just a quick snippet on a movie that I feel like is not super popular yet again. Oasis Springs ended up being about 50% super popular films and then 50% maybe not everybody's cup of tea. But I don't know, I'm not gonna go so far as to say that I love The Good Dinosaur. I had never seen it when it came out. It was one of those ones that I just kind of skipped for a really long time. I watched it probably 2 or 3 years ago when I started doing the Disney Save just to familiarize myself with it and see when it would be appropriate to move it into a given world, just so I have like the background on it, because I wasn't really sure about the characters or the time period or like anything like that. So I did watch it and it's alright. It's like not my favorite. I think it's one that people kind of forget about. I will say I rewatched it before doing this build and I was just kind of skipping through the beginning to like make sure I saw all of the clips of the farm in particular, because that's obviously what we're building today. And then I knew that the farm was really only shown at the very beginning and the very end of the film, so I was skipping through the middle of the movie and it landed on that one scene. This is slight spoilers for The Good Dinosaur if you have not seen it. Not really, but kind of. Where Spot is kind of communicating with Arlo and depicting that he does not have a family and what happened to his family, and he draws the circle in the sand and puts the sticks up for his family members. And the way I just absolutely sobbed over that scene, it hit me really hard the first time. I don't really have any strong connections with this movie at all. Like, it's not one that I'll put on. It's not one that I really think of in the broad list of Disney films. It gets forgotten so often. But that scene, there is something in particular about it that hits really deep in my soul. It like shatters my heart to watch that scene. And I rewatched it and just sat at my computer screen sobbing over this particular scene. I don't know what it is about that. I kind of have that same complex with Soul, if I'm honest with you guys. I don't really love or hate Soul. I have like a very neutral opinion of it, but there are a couple of scenes in that movie that absolutely will just rip me to shreds and draw me to tears. So if you've never seen The Good Dinosaur, it's definitely one that is very tough, at least in my opinion. There are some scenes that really invoke some emotions. It has that like newfound family concept. It has that coming of age concept, the finding your own, the learning to be confident. There's a lot in there that you could really connect with. So it is like, it's not my favorite, but it's good. And I really did want to make sure that this farm was included somewhere in the save because the characters are so unique. So I'm going to be able to do like some fun things with them. Doing a dinosaur to sim translation, kind of fun, a little bit different. We've already got it in a pretty wonky little neighborhood with all my alien Bugs Life sims going on. But then also, as a side note, when I did Hemford on Bagley, I didn't really get a lot of great opportunities to do a traditional farm. Gaston and the Bimbets kind of have a farm. They have some garden plot lands and they do have like a cow shed and some chickens and things, but I don't think that's the focal point of their storytelling, and I think that's really just for set dressing. I also mentioned back when I did that I don't think they would be particularly good farmers or really enjoy it or be pleasant about it at all. So it's there just strictly because kind of like the time period, but it's not intended for necessarily the player to really get involved with the farming aspect. You can play however you want. That's just kind of like what I think of when I'm doing it. And that's really the only one in Hemford on Bagley that I think has a true-ish farm. Maurice has some farming plots as well, and he has, I think, the Living on the Land lot challenge potentially, so you kind of have to garden, but he also has like other things that he can do. This is truly one of the first farms I'm adding into the save where the intention really is to run the farm, because it's so important to the film and it's really all of these characters, that's all they do. You don't really even get to see too much in terms of personality personality and interests outside of the farm, because it's really do or die. This is like survival mode. For that reason, I did also put on the lot challenges of, I think it's living off the land is the one that makes it so that you basically have to grow everything that you eat. And then the other one was foxes, and that adds like the critters aspect, because there is the plot point in the film that Spot is kind of getting into their food and their silo filled with food, and it's a problem because they need their food to get through the winter. So that in this case really lines up super well with The Sims 4, and it lets you play a true farm that was added in from cottage living in the way that it's sort of intended to be from the pack. Now, my patrons were commenting that this would be a very ambitious farm, and I definitely agree. I put a lot of actual gardening plots right in the middle there. I did put less than the film really depicted. If we had a little bit more space on this lot, I might have done like the full farm. There's actually supposed to be a couple more plots to the right of the house, kind of like where I have put the chicken coop area. There was even more shown in the film over there. Although they never show you really what they're growing, it kind of looks like wheat to me. Their main focus is most definitely what is right in front of their house there. And in the movie, they actually grow corn, but we don't have corn in The Sims 4. So I just decided to add in all of the available plants and things, or I should say the available fruit and veg, specifically from cottage living, that are kind of programmed to go on those particular plots, because those are from cottage living as well. But you can grow whatever you want. I just preset it in with some debug plants to already have it so that you can have a couple of things to like start growing. But again, you can do seeds, you can do whatever you would like. You can just completely change it and customize it to your will. With that being said, the chosen things being grown on the farm currently are pumpkins, watermelon, and lettuce. Those are like the three main fruit and veg that are added in from cottage living. And they're the ones that you can find in debug that are already like pre-programmed to place on these growing plots. I almost did all pumpkins, because even though they are definitely just growing corn in the film, and there are some other plots that are off to the side that you never get to see exactly what they're growing, there are some references to pumpkins in the film, which is also why you'll see me decorating with some pumpkins. It's not just for the fall and the Halloween vibes, although it does work out for me in terms of that. One of the scenes actually has Arlo's dad come over with a pumpkin, and I realized that they must be growing some somewhere on the farm. So that was almost the move, is just to like fill up the little farm area with 100% pumpkins, but it would have been a lot, maybe not as fun. So I just went for the mix of fruit and vegetables, especially if you're going to be doing the lot challenge. You really need a little bit more of a better variety. And then you've also got the chickens. We've got the fenced in little chicken coop area off to the right. Arlo is seen going into this area. It's like his particular chore on the farm is like feeding and taking care of the chickens. He has a lot of problems with that and really struggles with it, so it's really important that that was included as well. So for a few of the key details from today's farm build, other than the chicken coop, other than the main farming area in the front, the really big thing for me that I was so excited about when I rewatched The Good Dinosaur, realizing that the characters actually live in an A-frame home. That's so exciting because I've never done one for the save file before, and I really wanted to have the opportunity to do one like somewhere. I've thought about it in the past that it's such a fun, unique shape for a house, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to put one anywhere. Not knowing and not remembering that The Good Dinosaur, it's kind of like a den or a cave, but it is very much shaped like a traditional A-frame. So that's really exciting that we finally get to add one in, as well as in addition to the farm. They do have the one silo that they in the movie would store corn in, and I kind of left it empty with the intention that you can pick and choose whatever you want to go in it. It doesn't work like an actual silo. I don't believe we have any items in the game that would work that way in specific. But regardless of functionality, it had to be on the build because it's such an important point in the film. There is this whole thing about like making your mark in the movie, and a lot of, or all of the family characters put their mark on the silo, and it's kind of just them stamping their foot in the mud and then like pushing it against the silo, and they leave their mark when they do something that is above themselves or something that's like greater than themselves. So Arlo is kind of struggling to find a way to make his mark, and that is the premise of the film. So at some point in the video, you'll see me putting on these little paw print looking stickers. I think they're from the City Living pack, and I have never used them. They actually are a little bit unfitting for the build, but they were the right shape of like the feet of the dinosaur, and they have little eyes on them. So again, it's like not an ideal perfect match, but they came in a bunch of different colors and they were stickers, so I could easily kind of adorn them to the side of the silo in a way that I felt like made sense and represented that moment from the film. Another detail that I really wanted to have is sort of like that farm clutter. A lot of random boards and some materials and working things, hay bales and piles of strewn sort of hay around. This has to be like, the premise of the movie is that the dinosaurs never died off. So they're kind of like the humans of their universe, and that means that essentially humans never existed, but there isn't a lot of technology shown in the film. So it's this weird balance of like, it is a modern movie, but it's only modern in the sense that the characters sort of create their own technology and their own environment, and they are not shown to be utilizing a lot of technology. So I really didn't want to do a lot of technology, a lot of mechanical things, or even really like tools, because the dinosaurs themselves really go around and like use their bodies to dig and use their bodies to like hose down the crops and stuff like that. One of the siblings, his name is Buck, is actually shown a lot in the movie moving around giant piles of wood or sticks. I think they're actually whole trees and logs, and I don't even know if they show you what he's doing with them, but you can see them kind of getting piles of them around. So I was putting out a big pile of sticks and planks, but I eventually went into debug and found some that were a little bit better. They're more like actual tree trunks, and you can see those near the chicken coop and off to the side of the main household. There's also a moment with Libby, the little sister of the film, and she kind of goes over to a little pond that they have on the property and gets some water to water the crops. They do live near a river, and ideally we would have been able to put this house near a river, but I'm just kind of happy that it's included here in general. This is one of those movies where I just kind of went back and forth on where this could even go, and I think it could have gone in a couple of different worlds, but the reason that it ended up in Oasis Springs is one, really because we had the room. It got brought up as kind of like a filler because this is such a large world, and large worlds are really fun, but when it comes down to it at the very end, there's always like those one or two lots that we can't really plan, and we're trying to figure out what would fit nicely into them, and this was one of them. I knew I wanted my Bugs Life neighborhood, and I knew I probably wasn't going to come up with like a full 5 or 6 Bugs Life ideas, maybe not enough to fill out a neighborhood, and also I kind of had a lot already, so I didn't really want to do too many more, and putting in another movie where we have such a big world just made sense, and this is one that doesn't need a lot of locations. I probably could have come up with a couple of other ideas to do some places from The Good Dinosaur, but it wasn't a movie that I felt like needed that kind of attention. So at least having the residential and having this one lot in this neighborhood be such a bigger lot that would really fit a farm and be able to utilize the full space was really cool. There is also some light references to dinosaurs and dinosaur memorabilia kind of in the landscaping of Oasis Springs. There are some gas stations in the background that use giant dinosaurs as kind of like their logo, and you can find that in debug as well, and it's actually the same shape as the type of dinosaur from the movie. So it made sense to kind of like put it in the only world that has some sort of reference to dinosaurs at this point. As far as the interior of my little A-frame home goes, one thing that I really tried to do with this is utilize the space and make it kind of crammed and make sure we had all of our necessities in here, but I also wanted it to just feel super unmodern. In the movie, this is really just a den, and it quite literally just has some hay on the ground and some plants hanging from the ceiling and from the walls, and not much else. I think the characters would just come in here to sleep. So other than getting some items in game that are a little bit more catered to the idea of like co-sleeping or sleeping in a group, I knew I wanted to have like a little area that is not so much a bedroom and just serves more as like the sleeping area of the den. And then I wanted like some room dividers, not necessarily full walls to go up. I didn't really want to break the space up, and ideally we wouldn't even break the space up at all with like these fake walls. It's just that Sims need it for like gameplay aspect in terms of the bathroom and stuff like that. So again, this is always that balance of trying to use the game functionality and make sure that this is playable and it really works with what we are trying to replicate from the movie. That being said, also, I really didn't want to use a lot of decorations in here. I didn't want a lot of wall decor or pictures or anything on the walls. I didn't want like a big bookcase, even though it would be super useful in terms of skills and things like that. There's always room for you as a player to kind of add those things in if you feel like it's going to be necessary for your gameplay, but I just think a little bit more in terms of what the characters would actually have available to them. And obviously our Sims are not going to be dinosaurs, and there's no real like occult variation that I could even really use for them. So they will be just regular Sims. They need all of the necessities. They need like a full-blown kitchen, whereas in the movie this would be more of like a fireplace. And hopefully we will get that medieval pack. And I really do think we will get something like that at this point, since they're going to be continuing with The Sims 4 for a very long time. I think we will get more appropriate items for this specific style of build that I'm trying to do, where it's like a dirt floor and very minimal decorations. It also reminds me a little bit of Brave. It's like even less than medieval. It's very one with the earth, homegrown. Hay bale seating and haystack walls and no decorations, just like the natural plants sort of coming in, especially characters that is really appropriate. And those are the things that they would like and enjoy anyway. I did make one little exception for the dinosaur pictures that are on the wall. You can see me trying to struggle to place everything in here and figure out how I want this layout to be, but they ultimately end up serving the purpose of like a family portrait. So I changed each one of them to a different color to kind of correspond with the character that they're supposed to represent, and then put them in a similar fashion together on the wall near the den area of the bedroom, kind of similar to how I put the paw prints over on the silo. And I think you could even argue that I gave them too much in terms of like a little bit more decor, like the candles hanging on the wall and the cabinet with some of the plates and things in it. They don't really need all that, but sometimes when I don't add things like that, I feel like it looks a little lazy and repetitive. So I try to give everything like a full go, as silly as that sounds. And at this point in the Disney save, I've done so many kitchens and bathrooms and little miscellaneous rooms that aren't necessarily themed entirely off of their movie, but like have to have appropriate furniture and kind of fit in that sort of way, that it feels almost like, I don't want to say boring, but I don't want anybody to think that I'm like capping out or tapping out, or like the whole build is really creative or it looks really good on the exterior, but the interior, there's nothing interesting going on. I still really try to do something interesting or really utilize the space in the best way possible with any given movie, no matter what I am limited to in terms of furniture or technology. My hope and like kind of silent prayer for the near future of the Disney save after we're done with Oasis Springs, I've really had it on the mind for a while to do a modern world. My patrons don't tend to pick modern worlds, and I totally get that, because I think if I were in their position, I probably wouldn't either. A lot of people really want to see the castles and not the mansions, but I have been doing castles and these older builds for so long that I am just really itching to use a lot of the catalog that I have never been or had an opportunity to really get into yet, and those packs that I skip a lot because there's just no use for them in 99% of the things that I do. That might help make me feel like I'm not feeling so lazy in terms of what I'm doing in the decoration aspect, and just refresh my palette a little bit. But at the same time, on the flip side of that, I really feel like I've mastered the idea of these like older style builds with what we do have in games. So it's a catch-22. I did hide a couple of little dinosaurs into this build, just some toys and things like that, and I think that those candles look kind of like the shape of the dinosaurs from the movie. So those are my nods to that without like overdoing it in the dinosaur themed bedroom, where I don't think this is like the same vibe as Toy Story in that regard, or having like the super heavy themed bedrooms of the Bugs Life builds. This is more living, residential, and actually indicative of the way that these characters would live. That is going to be it for Clawtooth Farm. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments section down below, and if you're excited for the Create-A-Sim to come and Spot and his family after that. I'll be talking about other films and things later on after we get through the next couple of videos in terms of what's next for the Disney Save. If you would like to support the Disney Save on Patreon, you can do so by clicking the link in the description box down below or the one at the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and I will talk to you all in the next one.